So guys, we are going to look at some of the methods that you will find inside the result set. Just wanted to look at all of them, and as well as explaining what they do, especially the methods that have to do with moving the cursor from one position to another in the result set. So what we are going to do now, we are just going to run this code. So the expectation is that it should give us an exception, SQL exception, because we are trying to print a row. Remember, this is just printing of a row, but we are still before the start of the result set. That means the cursor is just didn't move it to any column in the result set. So what we will need to do is we can do many things. We can take the cursor to the next row, which is the first row, in which case when we run it will give us the row. Or if we don't want to do this, we can say rs.first, which will actually take us to the first row in the result set, which will give us the same result. So if we use this one, it's like it prints a cursor to its default location when you first run the program. It puts it just before the first row, which means if we run this code like this, we're gonna get an exception because we don't have data. We are still at the start. So you can use this when you want to reposition your cursor to the first. Then okay, we are before the first, we go to the first. We can just use first method or next, and this will work for us. So other than these two methods, we have other methods like absolute. So if you use absolute method, it will take the cursor to row 1 of the result set. So if we look at our database, this is our row 1 here. So if we run this code, we're expecting to get that data, which is this one. If we put 2, the same thing happens to us. So that is it. Let's look at the relative. We run the relative. You see it will give us 49, which is row 2, which is here. So the way relative works, it checks where the cursor is. So if the cursor is before first, row 2 would be the first, then the second row. But if you had put first, you mean you are in the first row, you have moved the cursor to the first row, and you say relative 2, it will move to the next row, because now it moves relative to where the cursor was, which is this one here, as you can see. 50, sorry. Then we can give these methods negative numbers. So if you give row 2 negative and you are just before first, you are definitely going to get an exception. As you can see, it says before the start, you are giving it negative. But if you give absolute negative 2, it will give you the second column from the last. It actually starts from the last. So as you can see, it gives us the second column from the last. If we give it 1, it will give us the first column from the last. As you can see, give us 50. So let's say you want to use relative 2, what you will need to do, you'll need to ensure that the column that you are in, we can just say rs.last. If we do this and then we run this, we are at the last, then we move backwards two times. This will give us this method, this employee here. So let's say we are just after last, which means it will give us just the second column, which is this one here, because the cursor was here. We move 1, 2, we are coming here, and then we saw the after last, we saw the relative, and we saw the last. Then we also have the Boolean versions of it. So the reason you are seeing this print, guys, is because of this print row here that I've shown you, in case you were worried where they were coming from. So you can use this method to check if the cursor is after last. So basically, you can use this method to say is cursor after last. So at the moment, this should give us false, because the cursor is not after last. And we see that it's even throwing an exception. I think it's because of this. This is why it's throwing an exception, because the cursor has not been moved yet. So if I have commented this code, this should run fine. That's correct. Okay, for now I'm just gonna remove it because we are just focused on this. So if we were to set our method here to after last, this would mean that this statement must be true now, because we have set it to be after last. Then is first. Obviously we would need to put this method, or let's not put this method, so you can see how this one works. You see it's false because the cursor is just before first. It's before first. So for is first to be true, we must uncomment and put the cursor to the first. Then this is fine. Then we have which other method did I want to show? Is last. Yeah, is last. Then we can just uncomment this method and run is last. We see that this is true. Then other than this method, we also have ResultSetMetaData. So we can get the metadata from the ResultSet. So the metadata, if you can look at it, it returns this metadata object. You can get column count, is auto increment, column, is case sensitive, searchable, is currency, is signed, and all that. You can explore many of them in your time, but for now what we're going to do, we are going to print the elements, going to print data in our result set using this metadata, as you can see here. So I'm just going to run this code. Okay. What I needed to do here was say employee Okay, let me just remove this code. So as we can see, we were able to run this code using the metadata to get data from the database. So what we did here, we get the number of columns per row of a result set. Then we iterate through a result set, we have the number of columns. Then we use the number of columns to do the iteration. Then we use getObject because we don't know what type it is.